Hey, what's up, folks? Adam here with some debate reacts to the final presidential debate. And oh my goodness, did President Trump steamroll through this debate. He was strong, he was consistent, he was decisive. He was just the kind of leader America needs and Americans are looking for. And Sleepy Joe Biden, while he didn't completely fall off like I kind of was hoping he might, he definitely stuttered at times. He cracked up, he was looking at his watch. I mean, this guy did not show that he's anything more than the career politician that he has been for 47 years. And Trump is the guy who gets stuff done, he makes decisions, he's emphatic, and he's willing to make bold claims. Joe is that polished politician who knows how to look in the camera, just like Kamala Harris did, and appeal to these specific voters and talk to these segments and parcel out America. But that's not actually unity. Trump, by focusing on the economy, a rising tide does lift all boats. And a rising economy doesn't see color. It actually lifts people, blacks and Hispanics and Asians and whites, and people of all colors and all walks of life actually get ahead when the economy goes up. So this class warfare and things that we're seeing from the left and seeing Democratic rhetoric, it doesn't change. It is pie in the sky. We're going to somehow save the planet or create this economic jobs stimulus kind of stuff. It's all government control and pitting classes against each other. It's been used effectively for decades. And yet how many folks of color are stuck in ghettos still? Many have gotten out, but many are stuck under these systems and systematic poverty that the Democrats were one of the biggest creators of. So I don't buy the rhetoric. I didn't see anything new or exciting from Joe, and it was hilarious to hear the liberal media talking about it afterwards. And they're like, yep, Joe did what he needed to do. He was ahead in the polls as long as he didn't screw it up or completely crack up or drop a bombshell. By Donald Trump. Biden's getting in. He's gonna roll on through to the election. Not gonna happen. Absolutely, positively not going to happen. And you can mark my words on that. This is a repeat of 2016. The pollsters had it wrong, the liberal media had it wrong, and they're selling you a narrative. Don't buy into it. I think it was clear as day. Donald Trump took command from the start of that debate. He was strong. He was decisive. And I was live tweeting during the debate. If you haven't checked out my Twitter account, it's Bearded Prophet 1. Bearded Prophet and the number 1, or at Bearded Prophet 1 on Twitter. I'll put it down in the description and in my bio there, and you can see it. And I watched Trump's rally in North Carolina on Wednesday night, and it was so inspiring. Again, record-breaking crowds. Tens of thousands of people, or it looked like. I mean, it was a massive mob, a massive rally. Joe's in his basement doing nothing, and Trump is out there. And what was so impressive to me was to see him speaking without notes and with the candor and just the simplicity and honesty that is what brought him into politics in the first place. People forget that Donald Trump didn't have to run for president. He'd already made millions in business. He was already successful and well known. He's had all these wives and dated beautiful women. I mean, he's not lacking for money. He's not lacking for family. He's not lacking for fame or fortune. But he actually cares about this country. And that's the difference. The liberal elite, they don't really care about America. They actually want to wreck and destroy the foundations of America. They want to fundamentally change and redefine America. And so they use their power and their money and their influence to do everything they can to merge America into the globalist community, the one world state, one world government. And something that is going to shock many Americans when they get the wool pulled off their eyes. They're going to be like, wait a minute, when we voted for you, we were actually supporting that, but it's going to be too late. That Americans have continued to say yes to these things and forward this agenda, mostly through Democrats, but definitely still through Republicans. And suddenly, at just this crucial hour of history, when we were about to go from the Obama administration to another Clinton administration, which would have just really put us over that tipping point, Donald Trump came in. And again, all the pundits, he's not going to get in. The Republican establishment didn't even like him at first. All the polls, all the media, no chance, not going to happen. Wrong. And we're heading exactly the same way again. So you can mark my words on that. But I want you to go ahead and check out the Twitter. I was blogging or live tweeting during the event and during Trump's rally. You'll see some very interesting comments and reactions that I had. And this debate was really more of the same. We saw Trump express with clarity his vision for America and clarity where he stands on things. And even having the conviction, him saying things like, I'm the least racist person in the room. you can parse out that statement and, well, is it 100% true, or has he ever said something racist or had a problem with anybody? I don't know. But here's my reaction to it. His policies are not about race. His heart and his conviction is about raising up America, freedom and opportunity for all people, which is exactly what it should be. The funny thing is, the Democrats and Joe Biden, who consider him or call him the racist and make fun of him, they're the ones who actually are experts in how to play the racial card and the racial game and exploit and keep people in poverty so that they'll definitely vote for the Democrats, who are paying for their programs, and also not wanting blacks to get ahead to a certain extent so they can always play the race card, or using the George Floyd thing to divide America and to cause the chaos that they want so they can take over. They're the ones that are actually racist in kind of a very subtle form. But it's actually playing the race card. And I saw an old video from the 60s, I believe, where it was talking about an African-American gentleman who had been working with the communists because they seemed the most sympathetic to the blacks' plight at that time and wanting to, help them. And, yes, we stand with you. And, this back in the 20s, I mean, there was way worse levels of oppression and legal discrimination against black folks. This is before the civil rights era. And this guy was all big into it, and the communists were his friends, and they supposedly liked black people or wanted to help them in the fight of the common man. And then this guy had an unveiling and an awakening, and he saw, wait a minute, these people are actually using blacks, using African Americans to exploit, they were exploiting them to further their political agenda. And he had a radical coming out of this and an unveil, wait a minute, these people don't really care about me, they're using me. They don't really want to see me get ahead. They are just using politics and policies to make it look that way. But they don't really care, and they don't really do that. And he really stepped radically away from that. I'll see if I can post the link in the description. But these things are starting to happen now, and you see many, Google it, black conservatives, black conservative voices. Why are many African Americans stepping away from the Democratic Party, which has been largely supported by blacks since Franklin Delano Roosevelt for about the past 80 years or so? But why now are we seeing black conservative voices like Candace Owens and many others who are rising up saying, no, this is not the way? And as I like to point out, even under Barack Obama, the first black president in U.S. history, at the height of his popularity, when he won re-election, or one of the high points of his popularity in 2012, 12% of African Americans did not vote for him. More than 1 in 10 blacks in this country said, nope, he's not the best leader, he's not the one we want back in office. So we see prominent blacks like 50 Cent or Ice Cube coming out in favor of Donald Trump, and we see many others of people of all races and colors. The chairman of Goya Foods supporting Trump. So don't buy into the media narrative that things are always going to be a certain way, or these candidates are good and these are bad, and this party's good and this party's bad. Don't buy into it. Many Americans are breaking free from that herd mentality. Now, I want to talk about some high points in the debate. And one of them definitely had to be how effectively Donald Trump pegged Joe Biden into a corner on the issue of fracking. And Trump was so direct, and he said, would you ban fracking? Would you move away from oil? Do you want to stop using fossil fuels? And Biden had to admit, yes, I do want to transition. I want to gradually. And of course, he's a skilled politician, Biden is. He can manipulate and try to use these words. But people, I think, can see through that. Trump is unapologetic in where he stands. No, I support fossil fuels. We are energy independent for the first time. Those are threatening words to the world powers that want to see America choked into, dependence on foreign oil and dependence on many things. So they'll have to submit to world government accords and climate change accords, which are not good, not in our national interest, not in our best interest. And Biden and most of the other establishment politicians are just going headlong into this and have been for decades. And Trump comes in and says, no, we're not doing that. It's not good for America. Trump actually cares about America. And so I think he did a very good job of getting Biden to admit that on national TV. And that affects things like the swing states of Pennsylvania, where they have economy that is based on fracking and other energy production. And so hear the alarm, sound the alarm. The Democrats have been rushing to do early voting and get people to go. And the media, the leftist-controlled media, the mainstream media won't focus on these things or highlight it. I was very appalled, actually, watching the post-debate coverage on ABC. because after the first presidential debate, I actually thought they did a decent job getting comment from people who cover the different camps, and there was some yes, no, push, pull, and just different voices. And I thought, yeah, it was reasonably fair and reasonably unbiased, at least in my initial opinion. But man, this time around, I was very unimpressed at just how quickly, like they have a reporter with the Trump side and a reporter covering the Biden side, and both of them, their reactions at the end were all pro-Biden and positive Biden and Biden. So like you kind of expect it from the one with Biden to say, well, of course the Biden camp is happy or praising their candidate, and you expect the one on the Trump side to report, well, their camp is happy because Trump did this, but it was so pro-Biden on both sides. I was actually appalled by that. I was put off. So I want you to be aware you're not getting the full story from the mainstream media, but most of you know that already. Trump stood firm and didn't give in to the racial attacks. He looked so much more prepared for this debate, and he was so much more composed. There was a lot less interrupting. And overall, I thought that the moderator, Miss Welker, did a good job. And there were some discrimination perhaps in how much she interrupted Trump versus Biden. I think I saw one statistic. It was like 41 times she cut Trump off or interrupted him and only 8 times for Biden. But some of that could have been because Trump was talking more or talking over the limit. I'm not going to get into it. But I felt like overall she also did a fairly fair job. And I certainly a much better job than Chris Wallace in that first debate. So Trump came prepared and Biden did look sleepier. He did look tired. He stumbled over his words at more points than in the first debate. And I even think the quality of his voice was not as good. Trump speaks with command. He speaks with clarity. He sounds like a human being. Biden sounds like a politician. He sounds tired. He sounds old, for lack of a better word. He doesn't sound like Trump has the fire within. And folks, that's what people vote for. That's what people choose. They choose someone who actually believes what they're saying. That is one of the beauties and distinctions of Donald Trump versus career politicians on the right and on the left. They are politicians for a reason. Most of them know how to play the game. They're committed to it. They are beholden to their bigger donors, and whether they're foreign or domestic these days, and they are beholden to other agendas. And you have this anomaly. Trump comes in, he's never held elective office, he's sufficiently wealthy on his own, he actually has convictions, and he believes what he's saying. And so, like I was talking about, he has the conviction up there to say, I'm the least racist person in this room. And again, what he means by that is, I don't see color with my economic policies. I don't look at that. I want to help all people, all Americans, black, white, Asian, brown, and others. Now, he has standards. He says things like, we're going to put up a border wall. We need to secure our borders. Every country secures their borders. But he also did a very good job pointing out those cages that were built under the Obama administration. I remember pretty early in Trump's presidency when they were talking about the issue of immigration and illegal immigration. Someone posted a quote. But they didn't say who it was from. And you're reading the quote and you're thinking, oh, gee, it's probably, Trump. It's like, some of these immigrants may have to go back. And, people need to go back to their country and apply to come here and all these kinds of things. And they're like, who said this? And then they have the quote. And at the end, it's Obama in, I'll make it up, 2014 or something. It was Obama in his presidency. And yet nobody freaked out. Nobody was like, oh my gosh, Obama hates immigrants or he's bad or he's this. I mean, he said all these things, public record. And yet, when I was reading it, and everyone else reading it would go, oh, did Trump say this? He's going to get flack. Oh, that sounds so insensitive. It sounds so bad. But it wasn't even him. But it's totally true. Total double standard on that. So I love that Trump was prepared to point out that, yeah, the Obama administration did, deport people, did put people in cages, did separate people at the border, all these things. And I was very unimpressed with Joe Biden's ability or attempts to justify himself, put those things away. And then let's even talk about the Hunter Biden thing. I mean, we have to talk about it. It's a burgeoning news story. And Joe's best attempt or best deflection was, I have never taken money from a foreign power. Oh, great. And I've released my tax records to prove it. Fabulous. So, yeah, Joe himself maybe never received a direct payment. I mean, he's a 47-year politician. I would think or hope he's smart enough to know that he would probably have to release his tax records at some point. He's run for president before and obviously vice president. But did any of his family members, like his son or his brothers or all these other people that are tied to him? And yeah, it's one of those slippery things. He never got a direct payment from China or Russia or Ukraine. But what are these emails from Hunter Biden about, well, we're going to set 10 aside for the big guy. Yeah, okay, maybe the money came to Hunter Biden. And who's the big guy? Probably his father. And there's been no successful attempt to explain away accurately or decisively that these emails are fake, that there's no fact behind them, and Joe can't deny that stuff. So yeah, he can say, I've never received a payment directly from foreign powers, but it does not look good and it is not convincing when there seem to be these records of family members, close family members, sons and brothers receiving payments and, do nothing or no-show jobs as they call it, or, things they're not qualified for with massive incomes funded by foreign governments. So I think Trump did a really good job bringing that out, and he was tactful enough because he really believes it, but not like cruel or just name calling, but he was convincing, he was decisive, he was so focused tonight. Trump was alive. And if you think that doesn't matter in just even the next 10 days, you're wrong. This actually matters. It's momentum. And I think he did turn voters back to him who were unconvinced. And I'm hearing this a lot. A lot of people didn't vote for him in 2012. Maybe they didn't vote for Hillary either. They wrote in a candidate. They just were frustrated. They didn't vote at all, or wrote in or picked a third-party candidate. I think a lot of those people, or even as some skeptics, I think Ben Shapiro has said this and others, I didn't vote for Trump in 2016, but darn right I'm voting for him now. And now we have a record of what he's done and what he has pledged to do. One of the things I remember in history is Ronald Reagan. Now, many of you remember Reagan. He took out Jimmy Carter, who was in office for 4 years. Carter was a very smart man, and still is. He was an engineer. He understood policy, but he wasn't a very good leader. Doesn't mean that he didn't understand things, but he wasn't good at communicating. He didn't have the clarity or the conviction. Sometimes he looked kind of weak or indecisive. And Reagan came in, and Reagan didn't have as many college degrees or wasn't necessarily part of the establishment. Reagan had clear convictions, though. This is what America is. This is how she should be. This is right, and this is wrong. And I was reading in a history textbook, and it talked about that election. And it said Reagan had a more clear idea of where he wanted to take America. And that's what helped him prevail. And the exact same thing is true here. Biden is simply a return to politics as usual, the murkiness, the doublespeak, the racial politics, and just all the typical things Democrats have done to pander to voters and get votes. In fact, one of the things I tweeted was Joe Biden talking about, I'm talking to middle-class families, and you're out there and you don't know how you're going to pay the bills, and you're sitting around your table and you don't know what's up. And I'm like, really? So Joe Biden, who is far from middle-class families don't know what they're going through, and they need Joe Biden to tell them what they're going through and then what to do. I mean, this is so typical. The liberal politicians, they think they're the solution to everything. Government's the solution to everything. They'll solve all your problems. They'll take all your pain away. You won't have to worry. We'll do it. Just give us control. Give us what we want. No one gets hurt. And Trump says no. The solution is unlocking our economy, unleashing the potential that's already in America, unleashing the love and the passion and the zeal. We apply for so many more patents per capita than almost any country on earth. We're the creative juggernaut. Our industries are world-class and world-leading. And that's Trump's slogan, make America great again. And that's really the choice that we're facing. Is it back to politics as usual, or is it truly progressive things like progress, not progressive like the left? That's the kind of choice that we're facing. And I want to point out that Ronald Reagan was the oldest president prior to Trump that America has had. And when Reagan left office, he was 78 years old. Well, Trump was elected on the day he was inaugurated. He was 70 years, 7 months, and 7 days old. Triple sevens, which, if you're into spiritual things in the Bible, that's like the number of completion, and it's a very significant number. And so when he leaves office, because I firmly believe he'll be reelected and serve out his next 4 years, he also will be 78 years old. Now, why is that important? Because Joe Biden is currently 78 years old. He would be taking office at almost 79 years of age, and he would be finishing his first term at 83, approximately, and his second term at, if he were even able to get in or stay going that long. Guys, that's not the president for America. People made an issue out of Reagan's age even back then, and he did rise up, and he did very well. And Trump, you can see he's with it. He's clear. And we saw Biden starting to crack, starting to shake a little bit or quiver over his words. I mean, he's a politician to the core. And I don't trust him. I don't believe him. And neither should you, that he's truly going to bring America any positive change. And I know there's anger against Trump. Most of it's fueled by the media. But how many people have really just looked at the facts and looked at, is my life better? Is he making good decisions? Is he forwarding this country and actually doing what's in her best interest? Yeah, it's a radical shift from the way things were going because they were working for the globalists' interests and against America's best interests. The radical left never wants America's best interest, but they always say it, but they want the exact opposite. We have a rare gift in the politician, or the non-politician really, of Donald Trump, who actually means what he says and says what he means and does what he says. And those results, I retweeted something from Kirstie Alley who said that. I'm voting for Trump because he's not a politician. He actually gets stuff done. He keeps his promises. He does what he says. Who wouldn't want that kind of clarity? Don't return to the murkiness of Joe Biden and politics as usual. It's not the way to go. And I have to say as well that I think the left overplayed their hand in choosing Kamala Harris as the running mate. And she is definitely part of the even more radical left than Joe Biden. And with his age and his mental faculties, she may well have, or would well have, an opportunity to run the country either in the moment or because he actually would need her to step in, or even physically something would happen. Guys, America's not ready for that, and that's not the way that we need to go. And so I know that it's right to bring up those questions and to be concerned. If we're going to have the oldest president in American history, is Joe Biden fit to be the guy? Or is Trump, who's in the exact same lane as Ronald Reagan, not only in age, but also in politics? And Reagan had a great record as president. Even many Democrats. I mean, Reagan won such a decisive victory in the middle of his term. It's funny, I was reading a history book, American history textbook in high school. And the first edition that I picked up was published in 1982, maybe. And Reagan's first year or two in office were very rocky. There was an attempt on his life, there was nuclear tensions with the Soviets, and the economy was in the tank. And I remember reading this history book, and because of course it covers American history up until the presidency of Ronald Reagan. And it was like, okay, Reagan comes into office, and man, everything's going in the tank, and we're even contemplating, could this be literally the end of the world if there's nuclear war? And it ended on such a dour note, the end of this textbook. Well, things rallied for Reagan in 83 and then in 84, and the economy just took off and started going white hot. And he won a resounding victory in 1984. You can Google it. Reagan's 1984 election victory. Almost, I think, all but 2 states or something voted for Ronald Reagan. I mean, it was crazy landslide. And even many Democrats, they called them Reagan Democrats, were won over. And what was so interesting is that I picked up the 1986 approximately, or maybe 88 edition of the same book, same history textbook that was used in American high schools. And it was edited to update because they left off in like 1981, 82. Things are looking really dark. Are we at the end of the world? And they added a paragraph or two after that. And they're like, well, things are getting better actually, and there's kind of some hope again, and things aren't so bad after all. And I mean, they didn't fall in love with Ronald Reagan. I think the guy who wrote it used to work for JFK. I mean, he was a Democrat, but they could not end on the same dour tone that they have over because things had turned around so radically. Folks, the coronavirus was sent to wreck this economy and try to get Trump out of office. It will not succeed. And you see our leader standing firm, standing for America. And I firmly believe he's God's man for the hour, and there's no quit in him. Joe Biden had to spend 3 or more days just to get ready for this debate, and he did not do well. The readiness he showed was nothing compared to the buck up and the increase and the surge that Trump has and is having. And he's traveling like a madman. He's doing rally after rally. He's going to the key states. He's hitting the campaign trail. Joe's camped out in his basement, and the momentum is not there. And things are going to start to fade. They're already starting to turn. Don't believe the liberal media. They'll tell you that, Trump didn't do anything significant enough. No, they didn't really watch the debate, or they're not paying attention, or they were going to say it no matter what, unless Joe literally fell off the podium. But watch with your own eyes, vote with your own heart and your own mind, not this group speak or collective speak or this false narrative. They did it to us in 2016. It's all Hillary all the way. Trump has no shot. Total lie, totally not true. And they're trying to do it again. Don't let them win. A couple of my favorite quotes is when Trump said, Joe, I ran because of you. I ran because of you. Again, Trump had talked about running for president since like the 90s. And yet what actually pushed him over the brink was 8 years of Obama and Biden. And Trump's like, no, and we need clear leadership. And he's at the right time in history, the right hour in history. And another one is when Trump said repeatedly, it's all talk and no action with these politicians. Or why haven't you done it? All the platitudes, all the promises, all the pledges that Biden makes and continues to make. And Trump goes, well, why haven't you done it? You were in office for 8 years. You've been in Washington 47 years. Why haven't you done it? And that really is the best question. No one can pull that on Trump. He's only been in office 3.5 years, and he has done and continued to do so many things that he's promised. He's accomplished things, and even he was able to highlight bringing in historic black colleges and universities and restoring funding and even guaranteeing it over multiple years, something they could not get under Obama, the first black president. Again, he has done things and continues to do things that astound. They break the political narrative. If Trump is such a horrible racist, why is he doing this? If Trump hates black people, why is he actually helping them? If Trump hates brown people, why is he actually changing some of the policies related to immigration? So again, where is his heart? It is actually toward real progress, economic success. And he said that success will bring us together. Success is the way to go. And that was his attempt to build bridges. Now, I know there's people out there that just hate Trump and they'll never vote for him and they're firmly committed to his demise. I pray for you. I pray you'll see the light. I pray you'll have a change of heart. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and I can't tell you how to think or what to think, but I can make a real strong case for Trump being a distinguished leader in our country and being the man for the hour who is doing things that are not usually done by our president, right or left, and is having a good effect on this country in so many ways and will continue in the next 4 years. So what's going to happen next? I'm looking for a real surge, just a continued build, and a surge as Trump tours the country, speaks, and I think he comes out of this with so much more momentum and strength. And I think people can start to see Biden is quivering. It seemed like the only times he lit up was when he was trying to criticize Trump. And he looked old. He looked tired. Him looking at his watch several times. I mean, Trump was game on, and that's how Trump fights for America. So we're going to see more of that, and I don't see Biden able to turn back the tide. I am still praying for some kind of, chink or gaffe or something to just really just kind of knock him out. And just show like this guy's not right to run our country. He's not competent. He's not able. He is sleepy Joe Biden. If he had to take 3 days off to prep for the debate, how is that going to work if he ever were to get in the White House and have to run business and meet with politicians and lead this demanding, grueling schedule? And the liberal media even put so little pressure on him over that. But you know darn well, if Trump did that, it'd be like, oh, well, maybe he's weak or he's this or, it would go off. But they give him a free pass. And guys, you need to see through it, and you just need to vote with your heart. Step back, turn off the media, right or left, and just ask yourself, who's really right for this country? Who's actually fighting for America? Who's actually going to make the real difference and actually raise up this country, raise up people of all colors, creeds, and faiths in this country? Who's actually going to bring America ahead? Not just talk about it and not deliver. Not just exploit different groups, but then keep them in poverty or keep them in whatever state. No. Who's actually going to increase, American wealth, American pride, American well-being? Who is actually fit to run our country? One other thing I want to say is that Biden really didn't have anything new in his playbook. It's just all fear-based, and the 220,000 people who died from COVID, and he's going to take your medical coverage, and you're going to die, and all that. He's like the prophet of death. And it's funny because he looks closer to death than Trump, who looks so vibrant and so alive. And people don't want to vote for the most fearful candidate. They actually want to vote for someone with real hope. I mean, even the Obama poster from 8 years ago was, hope, and it was this portrait of Obama. And Bill Clinton, even he knew, people like, don't stop thinking about tomorrow. It's going to be a brighter day. Very optimistic. Now, again, I may not agree with all their policies, but the candidate that expressed the best chance of real hope and real change, and all you have is bitter Biden just having to, all these people died, and you're more going to die. He's trying to scare people. He's a tool of the liberal media, of the radical left, and it's not going to work. Trump really believes what he's saying. He is working toward, cures for this virus and whatnot, and he really is also practicing what he preaches, like I said. So see through the media mirage and really consider with your heart what you really want to do. Definitely get out and vote. Vote in person unless you're in a very high-risk category or have a specific reason not to. Those votes are the hardest to discredit. Thank you so much for joining me. I want to urge you to go ahead and give this a like or a rating or recommendation. Leave a comment if you'd like. I always love to see what you think, whether you agree or disagree. I always want to know what you're thinking and feeling out there. Thanks so much for joining me here on The Bearded Prophet, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon.